My bad, sorry. Excuse me. Hopefully all is well. Let's jump right in. We already running behind. All right. Well, we started technically, but I know I wasn't in front of the camera. So let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty. Let's do it. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Jehovah's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer. And it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect. Today's message, Aman. Aman. All right. Shalom. Hopefully all is well with everyone. Thank you for spending some time with us on this rising. I'm sorry, I'm still doing all this stuff. We didn't even do our greetings properly. Let me get back over here real quick. Yeah, we just have to go with what we got for this rising. We thank you for being on. We really do appreciate you. Sorry. So we can go ahead and get started. Let's see. So where were we? I'm sorry, we didn't do our greetings, did we? Hola, mi nombre es Kofi, ¿cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi, ça va? Ni hao, namaste, hosai nikitabuya, Ohio. I see you, Manut, Wagwan, kamsa, kamsamida, aloha, ciao, unson, privet, habarigani, akwaba, madase, etese, jambo, bimini Kofi in the Franco Katana the way, Boker Tov, Boker Tav, greetings. Grand Rising, salutations, happy Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom, servants of Christ, Shalom and peace, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor of Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We appreciate your presence on today. We reverence the Most High, as always. We have a little shorter time today because we have our podcast, and it is Shabbat, so we're doing our Shabbat service on the podcast. Those of you who are on the podcast, if you come back and listen to us again, thank you for doing so. Everybody on all the different platforms, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate you so very, very, very much. Matter of fact, hold on one second. I don't know, did we make it a point? I don't know if we did. Update. I don't think we did. Sorry, you guys. I am all over the place. Pray for me this rising. We're going to get this together. It is together. I'm on. Right? Alrighty, hold on one second. Alrighty. Okay. All right. Look, we're going to jump right into these questions. Thank you for your patience. A lot of stuff going on. We didn't send out the reminder via email that we're on, so hopefully everybody got that. But by now, most of us should know that we're on at this time. I think most of us should know we're on at this time. So thank you so much. I apologize. Okay, for real. Let's go ahead and get started. If you're able to rise to your feet in reverence of Jehovah's word, please do so at this time. The only two announcements, one big announcement that we need to make sure we get across. Pretty much on all our social media that we use, except for maybe Clapper and maybe X, I'm pretty sure you should be able to go and see the information about the fact that we're going to be having our women's meeting. So it is advertised. If you'd like it to share with somebody, feel free to. We will not. The women's meeting tonight starts at 7 p.m. New York time. All right, so the women's meeting starts tonight at 7 p.m. New York time. Okay, 7 p.m. New York time? For those across the pond, it's going to be midnight, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to view it. If you can join us tonight, but 7 p.m. New York time tonight is going to be the women's meeting for those all around the world. 7 p.m. New York time. Okay, sisters, the information is out. It was out yesterday in certain spots. It's out again today. If you'd like to go to the store, if you have time to, or if somebody can pick up something for you, if you have the materials for that you need, if you're going to make the tea along with us at the same time, simultaneously. We are asking our sisters to show up if you can in solidarity to wear red. Brothers, of course, children, etc. are invited. Just know that we're focusing on the sisters. If you'd like to wear red as well in solidarity with them, for sure. We want to support our sisters the same way they supported us for Brothers in Black. So that'll be tonight, 7 p.m. New York time, Please wear your red. Please be willing to show yourself at least briefly here or there. Please, and if you'd like to go through the tea ceremony with us on Zoom, then feel free to do so. If you're listening, or you're going to be with us on, watching the recording, or if you're going to be with us, we might possibly be able to show some of it on social media, but more than likely, you're not going to get the same experience, and more than likely, it's going to be audio only. So if you'd like to join us, that way you can, but just know it's best try and join us in person if you can, or on Zoom. Be there, see everything, and all the ingredients are out. It's on all the platforms. I'll say the platforms later. I can't say them again. It'll be on the shout out again at the end. But and if you need the ingredients, feel free. When we send out the Google Calendar invite to everybody, when we send out the email to everyone later on, when we send that email out, what we're going to do is you're going to have the Zoom link and all that information first, and then at the bottom you're going to have a link that you can go ahead and click on to see those pictures that we put up, right? But if you'd like to, you can print them out for yourself and have yourself a nice little notebook or a nice little keepsake from the event to be able to use. All right, so that'll be 7 p.m. New York time this evening. The Zoom link, we can't put it out on social media because y'all know persons have been bombing and doing weird stuff with that. So you can invite somebody when we send the link out for sure, but we will not put it out in public. It will be sent on a Google Calendar invite about 4 p.m. New York time. I will do my best by then, so that'll give you about 3 hours to make sure that you've received it. Should be able to look on any social media platform you're listening to right now, except the podcast, obviously. You should, if any social media platform that you're looking at right at this moment, you should be able to go on there, scroll not even that far, and be able to find, the information for the event, right? And so you can look at the ingredients, all that right there. But at about 4 p.m. New York time, 3 hours before we start, we'll make sure we send out via email all the information for what's going to happen tonight, or as far as the Zoom link, and if you would like to print out, the book to keep for yourself, or if you'd like to just have, the stuff to be able to look at, make sure your ingredients are together, et cetera, et cetera. Have a keepsake virtually, physically, et cetera. All right. So I just want to make that clear. So that'll be out tonight, 7 p.m. New York time. For the rest of the day before then, we'll have our podcast at 10 a.m. New York time. We'll have our Shabbat school for the babies, 11 a.m. New York time. We'll have a watch party. We'll even have an international meeting, right? An international meetup where we'll continue what we're learning last week, and then it'll be saved up for those who are part of SOC University for you guys to be able to get access to it anytime. But 7 p.m. New York time tonight, women's meeting. We hope to see you guys. Invite sisters. You're invited from all over the world. If as long as the time is okay for you and you got free time, 7 p.m. New York time, feel free, show up, wear your red, wear your best dress. If I know it's old school and it's not necessarily whatever, but it's not against the law per se. Wear your best hats if you got those. You want to dust them off, right? Whatever it is, but come out and wear your stuff. Be excited. Have your tea together. Fellowship. I know the women's meetings have been going well on Fridays. Last night seemed to have gone well as well. So let's continue to move in that. You guys are doing amazing and excellent in that. And I'm excited for what the Most High has and the word that's going to be given by the preachers tonight. All righty. Okay. Let's get ready to say our Bible pledge. That being said, I think I've made that kind of clear, right? So that being said, Tada, thank you for giving me an opportunity to say that. Let's jump right in. How you doing, Sister Carla? And if you're able to rise to your feet in reverence of Yahweh's word, thank you for doing so in advance. Or however you're able to reverence the word, thank you for doing so in advance. How you doing, Sister Carla? Dwayne, Greta, Beck, Keith, Mignon, Mo Desire. Is it T5 Boaz? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Thanks for being on. Thanks for the love. How you doing, Anthony? How you doing, Brother Dennis? Thanks for the love, Anthony. How you doing, big brother Tom? It just got rid of my stuff. I think I was on Big Brother Thomas, Darius, user 229-19619, Beza, Mitchell. I think I said Sister Deborah already. Revivalist, Jack Simpson, Hernandez, A&G, Yvonne. Not sure if that's the same Yvonne Morris from before. And David Flammer, Kevin Nash out here. You know what I mean by that. I'm not going to say that name. But Kevin Nash out here. How you doing, Bible Health Book? Everybody, Lottie Dottie, everybody. Appreciate you. Did I say Mo Desire? Hopefully I did. I think I did. Alrighty. So today is Q&A. Right, we're gonna go right into it. We have less time today because of the podcast. So today is Q&A session. Matter of fact, we're gonna do something. Um, if we can, we're gonna do something a little different for the podcast. So to give you guys a heads up, we're gonna do Q&A for the podcast. And if you'd like to, for the podcast, we'll open up the phone lines. So if you'd like to call it, Holy Spirit just kind of gave that to me, dropped it in my spirit. So if you'd like to open up for some questions, comments, concerns, you can feel free whether to type it in the chat during the podcast today, or you can just call in, and we'll make sure that we get that information and take care of that information and try our best to answer right then and there. Alrighty? Alrighty, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. You can just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword, and this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word. Acham Yechavach. Aman. Which is Yechavah Shem, his name is authority. Let it be done unto us. You may be seated and go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. All right, so we actually did have a question. Somebody let me know that I had missed it. They had put it on TikTok. And so Sister Toya actually had a question for us. I'm not sure if she is on at this moment, so I'm going to wait until towards the end, or until I see her name. So if you guys can do me a favor, if you see Sister Toya pop up on any platforms, or you see a name like Toya, LaToya, we do have a few Toyas, but if you see a name Toya and you notice it before I do, if you don't mind letting me know. But her question is primary, not because it's better, but it's just primary because she actually I've never had anybody do that before. I like that. She went on, she tagged me, and she said, hey, make sure that this is my question, and I didn't see it. I wasn't looking for it like that, but I went and I listened to her question out loud, so we'll share that in a little bit. So if you happen to see her before I do, please let me know. If not, we'll probably wait to answer that question to give her a chance to be on live. We'll probably answer that question, I don't know, sometime around 9:15-ish, 9:30-ish, just to make sure we answer it. That being said, it is Q&A day. How you doing, Michael Howard? We're doing Q&A. We started yesterday. We're going to be doing Q&A every day until January 1st. So every day through the 31st will be Q&A. So we have an opportunity to be able to ask questions, fire away. Person said we don't allow persons to ask questions about faith and what we believe. And, we run away, we're ducking and dodging, or this is something and by the way, that's something that happens with a lot of persons say they believe in the word, in the Bible. But of course, we do our due diligence here to ensure that persons are given the opportunity not only to ask questions, but to question. The only thing is we're not doing questioning just for the sake of questioning. We're not doing questioning just to say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, and then dress it up as something else. If you do have a question, comment, or concern, feel free to let us know, and we will definitely do our best to answer it to the best of our abilities. All right. So thank you for being on once again. By the way, thank you for sharing the live. Thank you for being on with us. Thank you for giving your time, talent, effort, energy in front of the scenes, behind the scenes, etc., etc. We appreciate you. We could not move and do these things if it were not for you and your support. Even if your support is just watching, sharing, liking, some of you even giving, donations, even donations of not just time, talent, effort, energy, but some of you even giving money here or there, whatever the Most High puts upon your heart. We're thankful and grateful for you. We honor your presence. We honor your journey. We know that there's a lot of us going through in this season, and we're praying for you as well. So know that we are lifting you up, that we are doing our best to help out as much as we can. We're struggling a little bit ourselves. If we keep it a whole buck, a whole 100, but we're going to make it through together. So if there be any questions, comments, or concerns at this point, let's go ahead and we'll open that up. I will be quiet now. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, let us know what's going on, and we'll do our best to answer according to the word. And if for some reason that, we'll do our best to answer it according to the word. So does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, etc., etc.? So we can go ahead and get started and try to answer them to the best of our ability. If not, we might have to start off with Sister Toya's question. Any questions, comments, or concerns for today? How you doing, Brother Alton? I know there's only a few of us right now. We starting with low, low, low. The suppression is real today. Shalom, Sister Greta, if I didn't say so already. Okay, well, if there be no questions, I won't hold us, in silence. So if there be no questions, what we'll do is this. What we'll say is this. I guess we'll start with Sister Toya's question. So, Sister Toya, if we're going a little earlier than what I want, but prayerfully you'll see this. I'll try to make sure maybe if somebody can even remind me to text, the link to Sister Toya since this is her question and we missed it yesterday. How you doing, Sister Marquita? So her question was basically this. She was saying that she works in retail, goes through a lot of different things. How you doing, Ramon? Thanks for being part of the community. She said she basically works in retail. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, somebody got a question. Never mind. Some say that it's wrong to call Yahweh Yah. Does the word speak on this? So, so great. To be honest, a great question. A question I've never really heard before. I guess I've thought about that, like in a very minuscule fashion, in the back in the recesses of my mind, so to speak, right? But I guess so. Somebody's saying we can't say short. For example, one thing that I always think about, a lot of times we won't say all praises to the Most High Yah. We'll say all praises dot dot dot, right? And sometimes I'm like, should we always have to say every single time all praises to the Most High? Yeah. Should we say all praises to the Most High Yehovah Elohim every time? Now that's not necessarily a biblical scripture, blah blah, right? But giving all praises, it is, right? Even Chalal El Yah or Machalal El, things like that, right? So that's a great question. The answer I would. So I'm not going to opine. I'm not going to go through just my thought process. I'm going to let's do Bible. First thing that pops up is that there are many different things that are said in the word that Yah is a part of. I don't think that we comprehend it, or once again, it's kind of one of those things where if we're not careful, we're not thinking like as far as etymology, we're thinking maybe as far as like, or at least not our etymology, we're thinking slang terms and things like that, which by the way can exist in the Bible, right? We don't think of it as slang because since it's archaic or since it's ancient to us, since it's original to us and so far removed, we don't think like when we're reading the Bible that the Bible has slang in it. We don't really think about that, right? Like when you see, for example, ye. This is English, obviously, but when you see like ye, and when you see like thee, thine, that technically is a slang, right? It's something that persons didn't use, and it's going to sound interesting if you're into etymology. It might actually sound weird because it's a slang, but it's like kind of think reverse of how we think of it today. It was like slang terminology that was only used by writers and persons who like went to plays, read like serious books and stuff like that. And so nobody went around when they were speaking back. Nobody would actually speak to somebody else and be like, "Why dost thou protest?" Nobody would say thou. Nobody would be talking to somebody and say, "Well, with thine house." Right? If so, they were doing so playfully. How you doing, Eddyville? That wasn't a real thing. A lot of us don't know that, right? Like that wasn't a real thing. Nobody was really actually doing that. They put that in there because if you were somebody who was, going to see a play or reading a Shakespearean novel or Shakespearean play, or if you were somebody who was, reading certain books, they would put that in there so you would know that "the" means an individual or an individual group. How you doing, Sister Shirley? Right? And thank y'all for the love and thank you for sharing. Right? You said that's why the word there in all. Why is the word there in all capital letters? Oh, in Luke? Okay. Well, sometimes their capital letters don't mean the same thing as what they mean today, too. But we'll go there in a second, right? So thank you. I think you asked that yesterday, so I apologize. As soon as I saw that, I think you asked that yesterday. If not, somebody did, I think. So my apologies for that. I missed that one. That's why we're doing this 6 days in a row. Praise Yah. Right? So, but yeah. So when you get to, where was I at? Sorry. Oh yeah. So there's it's we wouldn't think of it today as slang because we think slang is always poor persons what they do, but slang is really anybody kind of doing something. Really, the word slang now has become something that means, hey, if it's not so-called, white or so-called the colonial powers, then it's slang, right? The only reason you think of like patois means slang, but patois is basically somebody speaking another language and making it their own, just like we would take English and make it our own, right? So if somebody's speaking patois, somebody says, "Oh, that's so hard and difficult." Well, if you learn French, right, then you hang out around persons who are in Italy, right? After a while, you realize, oh, okay, it's French with a lot of their basically just colloquialism and stuff, but also it's French with a lot of their just the way they speak, their the tenor of their voice, the accent, if you will, the black scent, if you will, right? So really, it's they're still speaking French. They're just moving some stuff around, right? Like so, or doing something different, adding a Haitian word here or there, or something that came from another community, something that was a Native American word, something that was a Negro word, something that was a Nigerian word. Whatever you see, and so you'll kind of get it, right? Um, you had kind of the same thing, right? With there in English, where in English they were it was like slang. We don't like to call it slang because we say, hey, slang is not reserved for the upper echelon. We just call slang, but they weren't speaking proper English when they said thee, thine, this, that, whatever, right? So when you're reading that, you have to know, oh, okay, when they're saying that, thee is not just saying your, thee is saying individual, right? But it could be individual group. You have to know the slang, if you will, right? So same thing happens. And I apologize. I talked around so much, I almost went away from the question completely. So when persons talk about Yah versus Yahweh, if that's, I didn't know that was as big a thing, but if somebody's talking about Yah instead of Yahweh, or Yah instead of Yahuwah, or Yah instead of Yahweh, or Yah instead of Yahweh, etc. If some like those are just different dialects, right? So if somebody speaks um, Yah instead of Yahweh, and somebody says that's wrong, we don't actually recognize how this word is because watch this. If my people, as soon as we start off, we in this verse we got it right away, right? If my people. Hello, Rico. How you doing? Salvation is being exhausted. Salvation can't be exhausted. Salvation might be exhausting for you because you sound like somebody who doesn't know how to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. You think that salvation means that you have the right to demean somebody else, right? Thank you, moderators, right? So you can go somewhere with that. Miss me with that, right? But that being said, thank you, Sister Mignon. Appreciate you. So, with that being said, Yah versus Yahavach, right? Yah versus Yahavach or Yahuach, etc., right? If we know if my people who are called by my name, well, then time out. What are some of the names of his people? Yah, or who we call Isaiah. Is it wrong that his name is Isaiah? Is the prophet who Yah has called? Is the prophet who Yah called and spoke through? Isaiah, is his name wrong? Right? You see? Right? It's short. Right? We might say it's short, it's slang, it's a nickname, but it's in his name. Yet Yah doesn't have Yah does not one time say Yasayah or Isaiah. I'm tired of you not, using my name in slang. Right? If one would call it that. Okay. Or, right, I'm about to say something different. I'm trying to say Anakitwa Yach. That's wrong. Who am I trying to say? Ananayach. Ananayach. Is that wrong that his name is Ananayach? Should it be Ananayachavach? Right? No, it's not wrong. It's correct. Right? Who we call Hezekiah. Right? Right? Hezekiah. Is his name wrong? What? The old ways speak in the old ways of whom? I'm sorry. If we're talking about like the language and stuff, or we're talking about the actual language of Avila or whatever, it doesn't get new or old, right? Because it's eternal. How you doing, brother Lamar, brother Yachasaf, right? So we see these things. Matter of fact, there's an example right there, right? If Joseph's name, the way it didn't always have to be pronounced this way, but who we call Joseph in the Bible, our Josephs that we have in the Bible, their name would actually be, we usually say Yasav, but actually it could also be interpreted as Yachasav, which means Yach is first in the name, right? In my people who are called by my name, right, happens quite a bit. So Yach in being in a name, right, is something that is a normal regularly. So Yach, if it's all right for it to be in the name, right, if it's all right to be shortened, then we see that it's okay to be shortened. You said, so the pattern of being Israel is fine, or no? I'm sorry, the pattern of the pattern. Like, are you saying, because people use this usually, what, bin or ban? They're usually using it as the children of Israel, but or the house of Israel, even though house would be bait or bit. So I'm not sure. Are you saying so the pattern of the house of Israel is fine, or no? As far as what pattern, I'm not sure. And how you doing, Sister Joy? Right. I'm not sure you said exactly which one. Is it number one? Are you saying the pattern of? I'm not sure. I'm missing it. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I'm legit. I'm just not catching what you're saying. I'm sorry. How you doing, Dominique? So yeah. So when you have Yach, right? Y'all say Yach is a kayach, if you will, right? Ananai Yach. You know, we can keep on going on and on, right? Matter of fact, Yach Havadach or Yahudi, right? Some of you saying, or Yachavadach or Judah is the same. Yah is right there, right? So when we're seeing these things be brought up, right, we have to realize. Matter of fact, it's not Israel. It actually is Yachadasha'al. First, Yah is first in Israel. Yachadasha'al is actually how you would say it, right? That's why you got to be careful too when persons be preaching and teaching some of the stuff, especially with the Afrocentric community and some of the Afrocentric pastors that say they believe the word, but then they're teaching you that, you know, Christ is really some rappers Christ, or Christ is really Horus and all this stuff or whatever, right? Right? But Yachadasha'al, that's how you actually would say it. So Yach is shortened, Yachava is shortened quite a bit. It does not mean that we honor him any less. Prayerfully that answers the question. If somebody else is, and how you doing, 1858? So prayerfully that makes sense the way I'm saying it, the way I'm teaching it, saying it. Yes, okay. So yeah, we have tons of places where we can see that slang, if you want to call it that, right, or in this particular case, the shortening of Yahweh's name is all right. You know, it's done quite a bit. Right, and how you doing, Brother Jermaine? So I've never really. I'll have to probably do a little more research if I want to be 100% honest, because it's kind of the first time I've ever had anybody ask me that question, or I've even thought about it as like a deep thought. But you know, just off the rip, I can see obviously we shortened his name quite a bit, right? You know, so but we'll see. You know, we'll see. I don't think I'm gonna find anything that goes against what we said, but we'll see if something comes up or somebody finds something. Not something that somebody teaching just saying that we shouldn't say it, but something that actually shows, biblically speaking, that we should not ever shorten his name. I don't think I've read a scripture verse about it, a chapter or verse, excuse me, about that, but maybe we'll find it. I don't know. All right. And once again, how you doing, Brother Jermaine? All right. Let's see. And how you doing, Brother TJ? Well, okay. So what was it? Luke chapter 1. Why is there capitalized? Oh my goodness. I got my virtual. I might have to go downstairs and get my 1611. I don't have the 1611 in my room in this room right now. So I might have to go find it. You might have to tell me where it is, because I'm going to be reading off of this virtual one I have. I mean, I guess I could try and pull up but the virtual ones don't always have the same capitalizations as that one. Hold on one second. Trying to see. I don't think it has the same capitalization. Let me see if I can pull it up virtually. If not, I'd have to run downstairs and get it. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, I cannot type. It's rising. Ugh. Why? Okay. Here we go. Hmm. Yeah, I gotta find another version. Hold on, let me see. Okay. Hmm. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Well, help me out, brother Dwayne. I think I know the answer, but I want to look at it. Can you help me out, brother Dwayne? Can anybody help me out? In if you have a 1611 King James version, or even if you just have a King James version, it may or may not do the same thing. I don't know if it does. Is there any way that somebody can? Where exactly are we talking about? Where there, the specific there is capitalized? Can you give me the chapter and verse, or it's Luke chapter 1? Can you give me the verse? Not trying to come against you, I legit. If not, I'll have to run downstairs and then grab the Bible and then scroll through it, and then, then scroll through it and try to find it. But if you already know exactly where it is, because I'm reading the online version. Online versions don't always match up with the capitalization, at least the one that I use. Mm, okay, well, if not, let's go ahead. Give me a second, then I apologize to have y'all wait. Let me go. Oh, here to help. Okay, yeah, if you can. I'm scrolling through. It's not. It doesn't have the same capital. Verse 5. Brother Darius said he got us. He said it's in verse 5. No, we're talking about TH. I'm sorry, excuse me. So we're talking about THEIR, right? Not THERE. We're talking about THEIR. Yeah, Luke chapter 1. And you said, why is there capitalized? We talking about THEIR or there in general? I think you said THEIR, right? How you doing, Sister Jennifer? Shalom. Was it in verse 5? There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias, of the course of Abia, right? And his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. No, so that can't be. Okay, well, verse 5. If it's just there, I don't know. So what I have in verse 5, if it's THERE, um, I'm missing something. No, yeah, if it's TH, so why is it capitalized? THERE was in the days of Herod and of Judea. So man, well, there's only one there, right? If it's the first there in English, they would be doing that because is it because see, I don't want to come off of as is the whole thing capitalized or just the beginning of the thing? Because here, what I'm seeing, that's why I said somebody got you guys help me out, just work with me. Is it THERE where it's all caps? Is that what it's doing, or is it THERE where it's just capital T? Okay, that's so it's capital T, lowercase HERE, capital T, lowercase HERE. Okay, it reads all caps there. Okay, okay. No, no. So it reads all caps there. Okay, that's the question. All right, okay. Now I'm tracking because I'm be honest. I was trying not to be. Okay, so here's what was going on in my mind, big bro. I was in. I was like, isn't it the beginning of the sentence? Right. So that's why I said I don't have. I don't have. I don't. Okay, my fault. Okay, now I'm with you. My bad. Because I was like, I was having a moment, and I was like, I hope I'm not gonna be mean if I say blah blah or whatever, right? Okay, all right. I'm tripping. I'm tripping. Okay, I'm having. See, that's why I needed help there. Thank you so much. All right, here we go. All right, so in the 1611, it's all caps there. All right, 1611, it's all caps. Okay, I'm with you now. My fault. My fault. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. Never really thought about it. Usually, if we're gonna have a word that's all caps is telling us, like, especially even in those days, all caps, lawfully speaking, legally speaking, if you went to school and you were supposed to be of a certain ilk, you would have used this. It's actually even a Canaanite type of idea, but all caps are making something bold. right? So if they're saying there, they're trying to tell you something. Like if a name is in all caps, it's a straw man. So they're saying whatever name you see, that name is not actually the name. So when you see Lord, all caps, Lord, all capitalized, you have to know to yourself, oh, okay, we have to put the proper name. Da da. All right. So now we in there, yeah. Now we there. So whenever you see all caps anything, it's telling us basically almost like a certain man. If you know what that is, whenever you see a certain man, for Hebrew, if you're a Hebrew, if you're an Israelite, you recognize in Hebrew like, oh, okay. When they're saying a certain person did, you're supposed to put yourself in that person's place. Okay, so when you see this, you know, all these different things. All right, I want to look up something real quick. So I'm gonna be honest, I've never thought about that particular there. That's a great catch. At least I haven't thought about it that hard. Um, but I also, I also look at there was in those days, right? Those days being extremely important. Now I'm going to double check to see if I can find anything. I don't just want to say that willy-nilly, even though, to be honest, seems like that would be important, like there in those days. Especially remember, if we know about these days, this yom, and we do the math, and remember, if we know the families of when John the Baptist is born and when Christ is born, it backs up what we say about, oh, if you know when John the Baptist is born, when Christ is born, both the women being pregnant at the same time, Christ healing John from within the womb, all those things, you can also tell when Christ would be born, because Christ is born right after John is born, basically, right? So as far as months, a few months from right after. So it is very important. So it could be but there's a lot that we can get out of that. But I want to look up something real quick so I don't mess up. Give me 1 second. Worldly education don't fail me now. Okay. So, um, hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. Cool. So there also too. So I'm gonna read just something I found real quick. We're gonna break it down. It's not 100% accurate, but I'm gonna read it and then we'll break down each piece of it because this actually is a little better than what I was looking for. All right. So the word there in all caps, um, right, is and elsewhere, by the way, isn't necessarily standard, but it's standard as far as the King James version. So we're gonna talk about within that context. It's standard in the King James version, especially the 1611 King James version. So that particular time period, because they're trying to emphasize the divine references that are about to happen, right? Or even a sacred place can even talk about capitalizing is also a way of, even if they're not using Lord, all caps, it can also be an indication of Yahweh or YHVH or YHWH or whatever. It can be an indication of that. So when they're saying there, it could be a possibility that when they put that there, remember, whenever they put all caps on the word, they're saying this is a straw man, they're saying this is not really what it was, right? It could be an indication that there's kind of a code that now this might be some might consider this conspiracy theory. So let's make that very clear. How you doing, Mahar? Shabbat shalom to you. Let's make this very clear. Some would consider what I'm about to say conspiracy theory. I have researched this a tiny bit. It's been years. It's been like 2 decades since I've researched this. To be honest, like since no, since college, right? For me, right. That being said, um, this can be something that there is an argument that this word there is actually referencing that they used to have that Luke chapter 1 in verse 5 used to actually read differently, right? There's a belief that this word would have been Yahweh or Yahweh or Yahweh or Yahuwah, right? And that it would have actually read something along the lines of like Yahweh was in the days of Herod. Yahweh still reigned, right? Giving an indication that even though Christ is going to be born and that everybody's gotten far away, and if you know First Maccabees, Second Maccabees, all these things that are missing that will come before it to tell us how all this wild stuff was going on in Israel, and now Rome has come. Excuse me. Rome has now come and taken power over Israel through the Greek puppet state that Israel had actually officially defeated when Greek wasn't a puppet state yet, right? But there is a belief by some. I would say there's a lot of evidence. I don't know if it's enough where we can say 100%, but there are some. So this is one reason that I actually did do a little bit of research. I can't recall all of it, but there is some truth. So some persons used to think like this actually might have been like Yahweh in those days reign, right? And a lot of times when they write stuff in all caps, it's supposed to be because those persons who are educated to know that things are supposed to be in code, they don't want everybody else to know certain things. So this could have been a purposeful manipulation of the word. Not sure, not sure. We can, if we want to call it conspiracy theory or whatever, we can call it that, right? I'm not saying it's 100% accurate. How you doing, Sister Donna? Right? But this word there, right? And specifically as far as in this scripture, right? In the 1611 King James Version, there is a discussion to be had about these things or whatever, right? So there is reference. There is things that we have. There are persons who had arguments, not just recently, but even in the 1700s, 1800s. There is an argument to be had that this was done purposefully to hide Yahweh's name, but for those who wanted to know or those who had the ability to go through and code could find it. They did that quite a bit. That's one. I just want to throw that out there. We'll call that one conspiracy theory, but to be honest, that's something that is a possibility. Because the answer ultimately is we don't know. The There being capitalized, sometimes we're talking about they wanted to hide a location. There sometimes could be that they were emphasizing a word. There are times when words were put in all caps in the word when they want to do. There's times when because it's actually in their day would have been proper. Not proper grammatically, but proper as far as sentence writing etiquette and things of that nature, right? Like you would make sure that you do these things. Depends also too sometimes on who is the person writing it. Remember, the Bible is not written just by one person. So when it was put together, depends. The person might have been taught. That's why you have some words that have just an S, and sometimes they have an ES at the beginning or an S or a ST at the beginning. If you don't know any better, that means somebody who was writing it and they basically spoke mostly French. Somebody else mostly spoke mostly Germanic language. So when they're writing it, it could be something like of that. Like so, it's not one person who's coming together and putting this Bible in English. This is why we say like there's a lot more to it, and we have to know the original. We want to go back to the original as much as is humanly possible. And thank you, moderators. Just Adam Ross. I recognize the name. Already came on doing the same stuff. Thank you so much. All righty. I didn't even see. So that's it. That's so. But here's just being honest. Now I know somebody's gonna go. This is the one that I stand on. Blah blah. I'm gonna be honest. There's as far as I haven't done the research on it. Like I said, for decades. So some of this is coming off the dome, but I'm reading this. Some of this is true. Some of it's not. But I'm gonna read through some more of these. Okay. Um, so this often could, represent sacred Hebrew name, right? Or sometimes just emphasizing a significant phrase or pronoun for reference, right? A significant name or what? Or pronoun for reference. So we could look at this as, right, there was in those days of Herod and pronouncing that Herod is king. And somebody who's been assigned this chapter is making it a point to say the pronoun, right? I'm about to go ahead and give you, right? I'm about to go into the pronoun of this person, right? And not pronouns like we think about today. Once again, language changes. Now we think of pronouns as, he, she, they, he, him, she, her, they, them. That right, we've changed over time from what that was not up for debate what those pronouns were, right? So things have been right changed up. So it could, in all honesty, this specifically, it could be somebody pronouncing, hey, look at Herod. And if it's in all caps, the thought would then be, if this one is true, how you doing, Brother Richard? If this one is true, then what they're saying is, look, in all caps, this king, but Herod was not our king. You see that? So it could be that, right? Matter of fact, in my little bit of whatever that I have, knowledge, whatever, That's why I don't necessarily go with the first one, but I see there's value in the first one. But I actually kind of see it like, oh, I could see that more. How you doing, Sister Shima? Where they're capitalizing there, right? Because they're trying to say, hey, this is not the true king, right? They're trying to say, hey, there, right, was in the days of Herod, right? The days, the period of time of Herod, the kingdom of Herod, if you will. Herod is not even the king; he's a puppet underneath Rome, right? He's half Greek, he's half Hebrew, and he leans towards the Greek sensibility so he can make the money. He worked his way and schemed his way up to where he was able to get to become the king. And he's the one that's going to be in charge when Christ is born, and even after he dies, his sons will be in charge. Right? Matter of fact, it's after Herod's death that Christ is brought back to Jerusalem. Right? If you do the timeline, we know Herod. This Herod is one of those persons, just like Maccabees and all that. Herod is one of these persons that you can't say there's no historical evidence of. Everybody knows King Herod existed. Everybody knows that he built a temple. It wasn't the temple that Yah told him to build. He built it so that he could have the priest in his back pocket. Right? We know this. Historically speaking, biblically speaking, we would say one and the same, right? Or historically speaking, at least. But so yeah, so it could even be an indication that they're saying, hey, Herod's not even the true king. Right? There, a place, Yah's everywhere. It could be that too. Right? If we're talking about Yehovah, right? Or being the there and stuff. So that's what I'm saying. So this there is somewhat confusing, especially because it's an English way of talking about a straw man saying something clearly is not original, right? And they're emphasizing it. So now it becomes, part of, discourse. Which one is 100% correct? I don't know. There's others we can go through too as well, right? You know, like a stylistic choice by early translators. That's happened before. Remember that word when you get to matter of fact. Here's another all caps, bruh. Here's another all caps right here. You ready? Um, Exodus chapter 3, verse 14. I am that I am. Tell him the I am has sent thee. I am that I am is all caps. I am is all caps, right? Both of those are the same Hebrew word. So it should be I am and I am twice. Or it should be I am that I am and I am that I am twice. Except both of those are improper translation. Right? The proper translation is the word Hayach, which is why some of you say you worship Hayach or Ahayach because you think that's his name, even though he didn't say that's his name. He said, tell him Hayach has sent thee. In other words, really he's saying it is what it is. You've seen who I am. You've seen the bush that burns and not consumed. You've seen the miracles that I can do. You've seen all of them. I told you, I talked to you, I spoke to you. Tell him what you've seen. Tell him what it is what he's saying. Then in the next verse, Exodus 3:15, he says, moreover, my name is Yehovah, right? Yehovah Elohim. And I am the same Elohim Shaddai that Abraham or Abraham would have known, that Yisaac or Isaac would have known, and that Jacob or Jacob or Yechadashal or Israel would have known. And he says, anybody who knows me, that name should be a monument to them for me forever. So if you're going to follow me, that's my name. That's what he says. But a lot of persons, going back to Exodus 3:14, in all caps, they put, I am that I am. It was a poetic change. It was a stylistic choice by the early translator of that time. You see that? How you doing, Sister Kimberly? They made a stylistic choice. They said, oh, okay, it is what it is. Yeah, they said, you know what might be better? What if we put I am that I am? But they were honest, at least. Honest enough to put it in all caps. Now, you would say, well, that's dishonest because everybody doesn't read like that. It doesn't know like that at the time, especially. And this is why you have persons like Martin Luther who were saying the whole time, like, hey, you keep changing stuff and doing this, you make sure you haven't taught persons how to read. You're putting the Bibles in Latin, which is a language they don't know. It's not even the original language, let alone is it always getting everything right. You might want to be aware it is that you're going to get this thing messed up and persons are going to mess this up. You're changing things and persons are not educated even on how to catch the change. So they in their mind I doubt it was fully this, but they in their mind, let's just say for the sake of argument, they were trying their best to show persons their code, but we should have never changed one jot or tittle. You see? So the same thing, right? I am that I am, all caps. Then you see later, I am Hacente, all caps. It's not even correct. Not correct translation, and it's not his name. But now that you capitalize it, what happens? Now you get all these persons confused, where some persons saying his name is Chayach or Achayach, which is not true. They think that it is because they're saying, well, in Hebrew, his name would have been Chayach because that's where they get I am that I am. But if you look up Chayach, right, or Achayach, depending on your dialect, you will get to a place where you recognize very quickly, that doesn't even mean I am that I am. That was a poetic choice. So even in there could be somebody poetically saying, hey, it might have said in the days of Yahweh, or it might have been calling out here, but you know what? I like, for whatever stylistic reason, it could even be to hide something once again, but I'm going to put capital T, capital H, capital E, capital R, capital E. Right? So it becomes confusing. This is why, so this is one of those where I get to a point where I give you a bunch of things to kind of research, some breadcrumbs, but then also be honest with you, I followed these same breadcrumbs, and may Elohim be with thee to go further than I, because this is one of those things where if I'm just honest, the answer ultimately is going to turn into I don't know. Right? Like, but I'll lay out different things that you can see in here, right? But if we be honest about it, hey, I haven't picked it up for decades. So thank you for doing that. So maybe I'll pick it up again. But I'm just telling you, big bro, like, it's one of those things that's been changed so much and hidden so much, right? That it could literally be somebody who, for whatever reason in their mind, said there needs to be capitalized, all caps, because they like what's coming up. At this point, see, when somebody changes the word, there are certain things to where I'm gonna hesitate because it's changed so much that I'm gonna make sure I don't accidentally put a little something extra on it and change it again. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna disannul it, and I'm not gonna add to either, right? How you doing, D1? And thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Sister Taylor? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Once again, we're doing in the midst of Q&A sessions. We're going to be doing the Q&A sessions for the next, all the way through the 31st. And also, too, as a reminder tonight, sisters, don't forget, 7 p.m. New York time, Women in Red. Women in Red. Please join us. The information's out on multiple platforms at this point. And also, no later than 4 p.m. New York time today, you will have a Google Calendar invite. You'll have an email in which we'll make sure we give all that. We'll give you a bunch of information, including it'll have the Zoom info, and it'll even have something you can click on to go to Dropbox, and you'll be able to actually print out, if you would like, the Women in Red stuff, so you can actually have a nice little book that you can put together. All right. And brothers, please feel free to support. It'll be on Zoom. The Zoom link will be put out via email only, maybe via text, but definitely will not be put out on social media. So if you don't get emails or different things from us regularly, if we don't have your information to do so, please, man, please, sir, contact us at your earliest convenience. I don't know what that is. Marry me? Something? Thanks for being part of the community with a $sign in the beginning. Right? Almost looks like strawberry, but it's probably saying something else. But yeah, so excellent question. I'm just being honest, big brother. That's the limit of my personal knowledge in that. It's clear. Okay. So Yechashua was named part of the order because his mother and great uncle were also okay. Yeah, that's not okay. Amen. Yeah, because he was a Levite, right? He was a Levite by DNA, and also he's a Levite really more so than anything else. He's a Levite by his seed, by the seed that he was, but then also he was also adopted into Judah, and Judah, if they be the praised, yes, their name is praised, but also if he's in the lineage of kings, kings are priests, and priests are royalty as well, right? He said, "We're on the end." Oh, hold on. Before I get to that, did I miss somebody else's question? Somebody else had a question. I know I'm waiting on Sister Toya, right? But did somebody else have a question? I feel like I missed someone else over here. I don't see it as I'm scrolling back. I started to answer somebody's question, did I not? Didn't I say to answer somebody's question? Yeah, verse 31. Yesus or Jesus is in all caps for sure. Okay, I swear. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Somebody did have a question. I started to. Matter of fact, I started to answer it, and then I was like, "No, brother Dwayne had his question." We had one question from Sister Greta. Number two was supposed to be Brother Dwayne. Number three was somebody else. Somebody else asked a question. Okay, thank you, Brother TJ. That's how you see it, right? I know that it's coming out the Book of Hebrews. The Book of Hebrews would be based off of the culture that existed before the Book of Hebrews was written. So that's how you see it. That's how you see it. Um, somebody. Okay, I know. I think somebody had a question. Okay, you said I answered. All right. Sorry about that. If I'm missing somebody's question, genuinely, my fault. Um, let's see. She's living in favor. Um, where on the end times? Where on the end time timeline is the rapture of the wicked? So once again, the rapture is not. So once again, excuse me, as if we talked about it today. Um, the rapture, yeah, it is written. I'm on. Right, it is written. I don't know. We need to do it publicly or whatever. We can do that, but it is written. Right. So as far as rapture, right, specifically, right, rapture is not a specific moment in time. It is, but it isn't. And this is what I mean. Rapture is what a lot of persons get as far as movies, stuff like that. Right? Movies, things of that nature. Right? Rapture is something where a lot of persons are thinking more like, oh, I woke up and everybody, I woke up and I looked outside and everybody's clothes were gone and they used to be there, etc. Oh, okay, that's what it was. Okay, so I'm confused myself. All right, thank you. All right, okay. So yeah, so rapture. So you said I'm using rapture, but I'm meaning the removal of. Right. So remember, rapture in and of itself is a word that literally means rapturo. That's where it came from. It's not an original word. Rapture is talking about it's a raptor, not like what we think of in movies, because they now in movies, especially dinosaur movies that have become big time. It's not like in movies to where we're sitting up here dealing with a thing where it's like, oh yeah, raptors are dinosaurs. Raptor or rapturo was a bird. It was swift. It also meant quick, right? And if we know about the raptors, right? Raptors, especially there's some that get up even to 200 and something miles per hour, right? But raptors, right? The raptors that can dive down, dive down with extreme speed, right? Dive down with extreme speed and be able to go ahead and hit somebody, right? Well, you said you understand the rapture is not biblical. Well, so once again, the word rapture was actually used in Latin, right? And so it's something that's stuck in translation. Raptor or rapture, right? Where persons are looking at it, but it actually just means the speed of. So just like the Bible says, when Yehoshua comes back, coming back like a thief in the night, also talks about like it'll be in a moment, right? In the twinkling of an eye, right? It says when the cloud will be rolled back like a scroll, Revelation chapter 6, verse 9. These things, it says some of these things will happen as if it's like the snapping of a finger. Well, a raptor or certain birds will dive down, right? And they'll literally hit the back or the spine of their prey, right? No matter if the prey is bigger than whatever, they'll hit the spine of the prey dies, right? On impact, or basically can't move at that point, and it's over. There's nothing you can do about it. Don't see it coming, right? All that stuff, right? If you don't happen to see it flying, and you find out the raptors coming, even if you find out and the raptors 100 feet away, right, 100 yards away in the air, if it's coming at that speed, you're not really going to be able to stop what's coming. It's too late. So Paul, when he's using this word or this phrasing, and now they're using this word to try and accent what Paul is saying. This is why we said, even when it comes to the Bible, we got to know what the cultures are, what the language change was, what somebody's stylistic thing might be, or the best translation or transliteration they may have at the time, or so they think, right? That's what they were trying to get across. Is Paul is saying this is going to happen like that, right? So that's really what the rapture is. When we use the term rapture, it's not a like whatever thing. Now that like as far as the clothes and all that, which you seem to agree on, I'm just saying that in general when I mention the word rapture, a lot of persons don't know they would have actually meant talking about like the speed and execution of a bird hunting for its prey, right? That's their focus with raptor or rapture. All right. So now that we got that out the way, right? So now that we got that out the way, just because some may not know that, so all praises to the Most High. Now we can get probably closer to what your actual question is, right? So now that we got that out the way, and we know that raptor or rapture is really talking about the speed or execution of what's going to happen. Now let's go into what we call the rapture is as far as everybody coming up. That's Revelation, really. That's Revelation chapter 20. So this is after. So a lot of persons miss, and it depends on which part, right? The way we explain the rapture, I usually say, hey, just go to Revelation chapter 20. You go to Revelation chapter 20, you'll find out, that this is when the Satan has been thrown into hell. Nobody's gone to hell except for Christ, really, right? But in the timeline, if we want to go there, besides Christ, nobody has gone to hell, right? The devil is thrown in hell. Right? And then once the devil is thrown in hell, that 1,000-year reign happens, and then he's released, right? And then after that, he'll be thrown into the lake of fire. Everybody else who followed him will be thrown into the lake of fire, and the rapture, so to speak, kind of happens during that, right? So if you look at like Revelation chapter 20, verses 11 through 15, especially, you'll see where it starts telling you. Matter of fact, let's read. We've read this quite a few times recently, but we'll read it again. Let's be obedient to the word. So let's go to Revelation chapter 20. We're going to start at verse 11. Yeah, great question. So we're going to go to Revelation chapter 20. Once again, we'll go to Revelation chapter 20. We're going to start at verse 11. And thank you for being part of the community. Is it Lubire Infinita? Right? Welcome. How you doing, Tommy? Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to all. If you're observing Friday and Saturday, Friday through Saturday or Saturday. All right. So there was in the days. I'm sorry, I'm reading it kept me on the same thing. I'm still at Luke chapter 1. All right, sorry. So Revelation chapter 20, verse 11. It is important that we recognize right from the jump, right, that we're talking about, the question was raised about the rapture and all that, and what it's going to look like. What we think of the rapture, Revelation chapter 20, verses 11 through 15 kind of tell us exactly what's going to happen, right? So what we think about the rapture and stuff, so the devil has already been put in hell, been released for the 1,000-year reign. Now he's been judged, all this stuff. He's going to go to hell. Hell's going to be thrown into the lake of fire with him. So is death, all this stuff, right? But there's an order and structure to it, right? So we're going to start once again at Revelation chapter 20 and verse 11, right? And we can just read through. It's going to tell us exactly what's going to happen. We don't even have to do guesswork, right? It's going to tell us specifically. Once again, Revelation chapter 20 and verse 11. Everybody ready? Revelation chapter 20, we're going to start at verse 11. Okay. All right, you with it? With me? All right, cool. All right, so here we go. Revelation chapter 20, and verse 11. It says, and I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Elohim, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which was the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead as well, which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead, which were in them. And they were judged, every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. All right. So we have an order, right? Pretty quickly. How you doing, Elder Tamer? We have an order, right, that jumps out very quickly at us that we just follow. Right? So once again, Revelation chapter 20, starting at verse 11. Revelation chapter 20, starting at verse 11. We have an order that we can just follow right on through. Right on through. Right? What's the order? And I saw a great bright throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away. So the former things have passed away. Behold, all things become new. Isaiah 65:17. I'm creating a new heaven, a new earth. Right? Christ, our Messiah, is on the throne. The old heaven, the old earth have fled. They passed away. So if anything, we should even add on. I put up, I think, 9 fingers by the end of it. We should put up 11. I love them jokers. Because technically, right, the earth and heaven, the former earth and heaven, the earth and heaven we're in at this moment, they have passed away. They no longer, the quiet has been rolled back. It's not the same thing. Right? Remember, heaven and earth are going to meet. We forget this. Heaven and earth shall not be separate things. Heaven and earth are separated now, right? But heaven and earth really were always supposed to be the same. That's why there was always a place on earth for heaven and earth to meet up. If you don't recall this, even Adon or Eden, not to be confused with Adam or Adam, but Adon or Eden, right, is literally the place where the Most High meets, right? Heaven even literally meets earth. It's part of the definition, the denotation of the word. The connotation of the word would be Alav Dalat Navan, or Aleph Dalet Nun, which would get us to a place of what? If this is where we're literally saying the Most High has a doorway that perfects us, right? Or we can look at it even backwards if you want. We're perfected through a doorway that leads us to Yah, right? 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 And how you doing, Minister Stephen? You said you're actually referring to Matthew 13:40. Okay, well, Matthew chapter 13, verse 40, okay. Well, we'll continue then. We'll go over to Matthew chapter 13, right? Because Matthew 13, right, goes with Revelation anyways, right? Because how does Matthew 13 start off? Matthew 13 is Christ speaking. He talks about not a stone being left upon a stone. After that, his disciples come to him and they say, hey, you're talking about da-da-da-da. All right. Can you tell us about how the eschatology, the last days, or the things that will last through? Christ then begins to start talking about what will last, what won't last, even getting to the point of saying, well, what do you need? How should you be saved? Matthew 24, verse 13, those who endure, the same shall be saved. And then verse 14, those who preach the proper interpretation of what is evangelized, because whenever you say that word gospel or Godspell, right, it actually is the word evangelize, even in the Greek. So what we use to evangelize, which should be the true word of Yah, right, is what will, once that is used across the world, across the planet, if you will, then Christ will come back. He tells us. So no man knows the date or the hour, but he does tell us what needs to take place. So he's actually dealing with eschatology. He's dealing with the last days. He's dealing with the same thing we're talking about here in Revelation. But we'll jump over there specifically to verse 40 if you would like us to, no problem, right? But we're already there. We got to be holistic. We got to be holy, right? We got to make sure we're catching the whole context of it, right? John is revealing more than what Christ did in Matthew 13, and Christ is revealing more than what Isaiah did in Isaiah 64 and 65, and Isaiah is revealing more than what was revealed in Ezekiel. And Ezekiel is revealing more than what was revealed in Daniel 11. And Daniel 11 we're seeing more than what was in Daniel 7. In Daniel 7, we're seeing more than what was in the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had in Daniel chapter 2. And we're seeing more, you see what I'm saying? Like we're seeing more growth and more thought process. We're seeing more even in Revelation chapter 12. who Christ comes out of. Revelation chapter 13, the beast and the second beast that leads that is basically religious organizations that uplift the beast of the government made out of the people or the water that comes out of the mouth of the Satan, led by his words. Right? We're going all the way back to Genesis. Right? Genesis chapter 3, where there'll be enmity in the same way that there's enmity between the children of the devil and the children of the Most High, and there's a woman travailing in birth. Now that same woman is coming up in Revelation 12 with 12 crowns, with 12 stars upon her crown. So it's all going together. But we'll go back to Matthew 13, I promise you. It's holistic, right? So finishing up in Revelation 20, we see here that what? Verses 11 through 15, that the throne that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them, so they're gone. Right? Then, verse 12, and I saw the dead, so those who had died, small and great, no matter what your stature is, right, standing before Elohim, and the scrolls and the books, the scrolls were opened, right? And another scroll was opened, separate from the scrolls that were opened, and this was the scroll of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written where? In the scrolls. Right? According to their works. Now, faith without works is nothing, which means works without faith has no life either, right? But according to their what? Their works. And then the sea gave up those who had died, which were in it, and death and hell delivered up that were in them, and in them they were judged, every man according to their what? Works. Doubling down in Avda or in Hebrew, right? Whenever we see something repeated, we're supposed to take extreme notice. Here we go again. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire, and this was the second death. Whenever you hear the term second death, that's what it's talking about. And then after that, what does it say? It says, and then whosoever's name was not found written in the book of life. That means if you did not do the works, then you went to the same place where the devil, death, and hell went. You went to a place that burns. Okay? All right. Okay? I don't know why I do that so much. I be sounding like my man off South Park. All right. Now that we got that, let's go ahead now here back to Matthew 13. And let's go to verse 40. Really, if we went all the way up through verse 14 already, right? But let's go ahead and do a little bit more. Matter of fact, let's start at verse 14 again, just in case somebody's not aware. We'll make our way. We're going to make our way quickly, but we'll make our way up to, the older I get, I sound more like that there. Okay. 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 Like Kermit the Frog. I almost snorted up my water. That would have been something. That would have been something for social media. Huh? Y'all could have clipped that. All right. Matthew chapter 13 and verse 14. Thank you, moderators. I see you. All right. I don't know what they said, but thank you. All right. Matthew chapter 13, verse 14. Right? How you doing, Julius? Okay. Matthew chapter 13, verse 14. It says this, and in them was fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, of Yesaiah, or you see it as Isaiah, right? But as the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, by hearing, Matthew 13. I said Matthew, you said Matthew 13:40? I went to Matthew 24. Sorry, excuse me. It still makes sense though, because Matthew 13 is talking about the kingdom of heaven is like. Sorry about that. I went to Matthew 24, verse 13 in my head, and you asked me about Matthew chapter 13, verse 40. I don't know what I did there. I guess 24, 13 kind of is like 40, 13, 40, and I reversed. I did something. I don't know. Pray for my dyslexic mind, all right? My bad. I'm sorry. You probably was like, well, it sounds really nice what you're saying, but that's not what I even asked about. I apologize if you're still on. I hope you are. Matthew chapter 13. I'm thinking Matthew 24. What we said still makes sense though, right? In this regard, sorry, Holy Spirit, have your way, right? And forgive me, right? Matthew 13 is talking about, it's talking about the kingdom of heaven is like, which we're still talking about kingdom, right? Kingdom sense, not common sense, excuse me. So the kingdom of heaven is like someone who sows seed. Matthew 13 verses 1 through 9, and let those who have ears to hear what Ravak is saying, right? His disciples come to him right after that and say, why is it you always speak to them in parables? And he doesn't stutter. He says, it is not For them, he said, I speak to them in parables because it's not for them to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but it is for you. Why? Because you roll with me. You've given your life. You've done what you're supposed to. You out here. You're married and you're still rocking with me. You've been sent out two by two, right? So he says it's not for them to know. He says, but since you have asked me the question, and it is for you to know the mystery, since you have better relationship with me, he says, let me tell you. And then he explains the parable of the sower of the seed, right? And talks about how the son, the seed that's picked up by the birds and scorched by the sun, etc., are those who hear the word but really don't have the heart for it at all, and have the ear for it at all. So as quickly as they receive it, it goes away. It's in one ear out the other, right? It's as if the Satan himself is coming and snatching it. Then there's another group where the word gets like a little deep, but it doesn't really take root, right? So they kind of have a heart, but it's not ready and prepared enough yet. So they hear the word, but and receive it, but then the vicissitudes of life come and choke the life out of it. How you doing, Sister Toya? I was waiting on you. You can ask him. You can ask him. I've been saying if you see Sister Toya before I do, let me know so we can answer her question. So I've been waiting. All right, I'm ready to go. I was about to answer it no matter what because it's almost time today. So I'm glad you made it. All right, all right. So we come to you next. All praises. All right. So yeah, so he goes through all that, and he talks about the seed, and then there's a group where the word is preached to them, and the word might even go deep, but because of situations going on, I mixed up the two. Sorry, there's a group where it's rooted a little bit, but it doesn't go that deep, and since it's not really that deep in their heart, they lose it. Then there's a group to where it goes deeper in their heart, but they allow the things of life to come and choke it out. But then there is the seed or the word, the zara, the word, the seed that penetrates the ground, penetrates the heart, and those who allow it to do so, it will grow 30, 60, and 100-fold. Right, we go from that to then there is the parable of the wheat and the tare. Basically, long story short, we can't tell the difference between the wheat and the tare, but wheat, when it gets to be of a certain age of maturity, wheat begins to bow, tare begins to lift up and continue. So tare doesn't really have heavy word in it or seed in it of the same weight as the wheat. So it continues to lift itself up, but wheat will humble or bow itself. And so when it's time, the Most High Himself will be the one to separate the wheat from the tare. You might not be educated enough to do that, but He will be able to do that. Then it talks about, a little, the kingdom of heaven is like when somebody has a little bit of sin or a little bit of leaven and it's put into the bread, and now all of a sudden all of the bread rises and gets puffy and try to acknowledge itself. It gets too big for its britches, right? That's right. Until the harvest, they're gonna look the same, right? Or at least if you're untrained. That's why he says, I'll send out the ones I've trained. You don't worry about it. You just be wheat. I'll determine. Right? You be wheat. If you're tare, if you're poison, be what you are. I'm coming for you. And the wheat will put where it's supposed to, so it can be something that can be used for the body. The tare will have to be burnt because we can't use tare. It will poison the body, right? So, and then we get to the leaven, then we get to, the kingdom of heaven is like a man that found a treasure hidden in the field, basically saying like, hey, the treasure or the kingdom doesn't get removed from where you found it. You make sure that you sell yourself or sell everything that you have, right? Sold out to it completely to get the land. If you get the territory, then the treasure is yours once you get the territory. A lot of persons, they find a treasure and they try to steal it and take it somewhere else. You can't take the kingdom from where it's supposed to be. It's got to be where you found it, right? It's got to be like you found it. You got to follow what it says. You can't change it and try to say, now that I've changed it, I own it. No, that's thievery. You got to make sure you own the territory, right? So if Yah gives you the territory, then make sure you do what it is necessary to be worthy of the territory so that the kingdom that's in the territory can be inside of you. Then it says that there's a merchantman, right, who has taba or goodly pearls, right, and he knows what it is, and he sold pearls his whole life, and then he finds one pearl that's greater than any other thing he's ever seen before, and he sells everything he has just to own the pearl. Why? Well, he's been looking for this thing or selling it. He's known what it is. He's had different things in his hand, so he knows about pearls. He's had different systems. He's had different personalities. He's had different relationships, whatever it is in his life. But when he found this one that's supposed to be kingdom, he recognized this is something unlike anything he's ever seen. And so he said, I will not continue to be what everybody wants me to be or keep trying to sell this or that or trying to sell myself out to blah, blah. I will sell myself out completely for the pearl, right? This pearl might be something that's nothing to you, right? Because it might be swine. You might be swine. But this pearl for me, I comprehend what it is, right? Right? I'm not. Those of you who get the reference, you get the reference, right? I'm not calling you swine, right? To those who have ears to hear, let them hear, right? So we go through all that, and then we get to Matthew chapter 13, basically, right? After we've done all that, we got to Matthew chapter 13 in verse 40, which really is us. We really should go to Matthew chapter. So in the midst of all that, excuse me, I said after all that, in the midst of all that, right? We even had the kingdom of heaven is like a net, right? That's thrown out and brings business net. So that's the context of Matthew chapter 13 in its entirety. So now if we get to Matthew chapter 13, right? When we get to verse 40, it's talking about the wheat and the tare specifically. So we're going back now. This is actually talking about the wheat and the tare, right? So still talking about the end times, eschatology, still matching up with Matthew chapter 24, eschatology, still matching up with Revelation 20, eschatology. Christ is talking about the end times, but he's explaining about the wheat and the tares. So Matthew chapter 13, if we go back some to verse 36, Matthew 13:36 says, Yehoshua sent the multitude away. Remember the same multitude that they asked in the beginning, why are you always speaking to them in parables? He says it's not for them to know the mysteries. So he told them, he explained to the ones who needed to know the mystery out of relationship with him. He said, this is what the seed parable is about. Then he goes into the wheat and the tare, right? And then when they then he says, you know what, send them away. This part is not for them. This is for those of you who have, you're an insider, right? This is inside information, he says. He says, send them away. I know they came out. I know they want to get the word. I know they're here for the healing. I know all this stuff, but this is not for them. This is for you, which shows us that God does have an inner circle. Don't forget that. Are you in his inner circle? Are you somebody that just shows up for whatever, but you're not in his inner circle? See, there's certain things that are revealed on the inner circle that aren't revealed. There's certain things that are revealed with those that walk with Yah. There's certain things that are revealed when you making sure that you're around, right? When you're around the boss that you don't get. Like some of y'all call it sucking up, and I get it. There are those who quote suck up, unquote. But sometimes what y'all call quote, sucking up. Look, when I was around my pastor, guess what I was always doing? What you need? Oh, you're gonna fill up the baptismal pool? Teach me how to do it. What time do you show up? Right? Oh, you show up for service at such and such time? Okay, cool. I'm going to show up too. He shows up at 6 a.m. New York time. He's on his face prostrate before the Lord praying. I'm on my face. I don't even know what to do when I'm down there first couple of times because I've never really prayed like that before. But if that's what he does, that's what I'm going to do. He feels the rush of the Spirit because he did so. I feel it too. I'm like, oh, that's, early in the rising shall I seek thee. I get it. Right? Like I was whatever he was doing, whatever she was doing. I've had some she who were my leaders, right? Whatever they were doing, let me make sure that I'm on point. Right? Let me make sure that I'm on point. Right? So if they're doing it, I'm doing it, right? That's what so he says for those who are in the inner circle, for those of you, remember Peter, right, had left his whole family following Christ, left what he did as business. He said, hey, if you cry, I'm following. He even asked. He said, hey, look, what are we gonna get? We left everything. And Yehoshua doesn't study. He said he doesn't stop. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure you taken care of. Right? I'm gonna take care of you. Okay. So, but Matthew chapter 24. Now let's go back, right? So, but this is the inner circle. Y'all catch it? This ain't everybody. This is the inner circle. This is the context. This isn't everybody's hearing this. Everybody getting this. Everybody's going to get this. This is for those who are looking for relationship and following and getting close and really trying to be laborers. All right. And then we come into your question, Sister Toya, right after this. So Matthew chapter 13, verse 36. It says, Yehoshua sent the multitude away and went into the house. He went into the house. And his disciples came unto him, saying, declare unto us the parables of the tares of the field. In other words, can you tell us the difference between the wheat and the tares and tell us what you actually meant? Right? Verse 37. He answered and said unto them, he that soweth tabach seed is the Son of Man. The one who's given the word is the Messiah. All right. Verse 38. The field is the world, is the system, right? Cosmos with a K. Kosmos, right? The cosmos, that's the system, that's the field. The field is the world, right? And by the way, Levites are not supposed to work in the field. You get the double entendre, you get the bars, right? It's not only just talking about trying not to have a 9 to 5. It's saying you can't be with Christ and be in the world at the same time working. At some point, something got to give. That's why a lot of us, we get to a point where we get really sick and tired of this worldly stuff. And even if we're there, we start finding ways to withdraw as much as possible and start repairing ourselves, because it's really difficult to give this word while living in the world. Right? I guess we try to find things that others don't do. We try to go to do things that, hey, we can take care of our family, but we stop worrying about, hey, promotion and blah, blah, because it get real difficult being out there in the world. Right? Trust and believe. Person be thinking, because it's been a while for me that I never was out there. Like, I was in the military, right? I was out there humping and moving furniture and had to work his way up to become manager of that and put a whole bunch of stuff in place that unfortunately some of y'all still use to get taken over and swindled and sales and stuff today, right? But I worked my butt off. I got a hernia. The hernia I got was when I was working at 9 to 5 and stuff. I've worked at restaurants. I've worked, I've done the under table stuff. I've worked and hope the churches will give me little bits and crumbs and this and that. I promise you, I busted my hump too. I still do, right? I still do. I just do it for the kingdom. But I don't mind doing it for the kingdom because I believe in the kingdom, right? When I was doing it for that piddly job, right? I ain't really believe in them. I just needed to make sure my family ate, right? So I've been there. I get it, right? And sometimes I still be having to do little contract work here, there, blah, blah, whatever. I just make sure it doesn't interfere with what we're doing here. So anyways, the field is the world. The tabach seed are the children of the kingdom. So not only the word, but it's the children of the kingdom. Now I want you to catch this, because what are the children of the kingdom supposed to do? Right? They're supposed, right? In this particular place. So I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm getting my parables mixed up. First parable, the seed was the word. Right? Thrown by the Son of Man. Second parable, right? The field is the world. Now I need you to comprehend, he that soweth the tabach seed, because remember the wheat and tares, the wheat is tabach seed. Right? The tare is what? Is negative seed, if you will, is bad seed. La'ach, right? Seed. Okay. Now watch this. You ready? So the Most High, Yechashva, right, specifically the Messiah, when he says, I'm sowing seed in this parable, the context is, I am planting righteous children where I want them to be. I put them in a particular field where I wanted them to be. Those children belong to me, right? Right? The field is the world. And I might be sending you as sheep amongst wolves, but I, as a great shepherd, will put you where you were supposed to be. Be where I planted you to be, okay? And the children are the kingdom. But the tares are the children of the wicked one. Just like there's Genesis tells us they're children of the Most High and the children of the devil. And we are in enmity with each other. So the devil goes around and he has children. And he plants them where he wants them to be. Now, you are planted in righteous positions before there's even anything demonic. You get somewhere, oh, this is nice, this is beautiful. And you ever done it? And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, like after a few months, wait a minute, who's living next to me now? Look down the block, what happened? Somebody in your house, everything was cool. Now all of a sudden they've gotten some kind of weird demonic influence and now they're bringing things in your house. What's going on? Right? You ever been there? You got to a job, the job was great and everything. Now all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, this is nothing but imps around me. Right? How you doing, Brother Yosef? How you doing, Sister Danielle? Right? So he planted you where he wanted you. But then here comes the wicked one to make sure that his children are trying to take over the same territory that you're in. All right. Verse 39. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. Very clear. Right? So the Messiah sows righteous seed. The enemy comes behind it and sows what? Unrighteous seed. Now the harvest is the end of the world. The harvest is what? The harvest in this context, is the end of the world, is the end of the wicked system. So you've been planted in a wicked system to grow righteously. The devil, seeing that, decided that he would, since he's in charge of it anyways, well, what's that? I might be going too far in the parable. Let me stick to the parable. Let's stick to. I don't want anybody saying I'm putting my opinion on it. So the field is the world, right? And you were planted in the right. You were planted in righteousness. The devil comes along and he plants his children in wickedness right next to you, to a place to where it's confusing. Right now, the harvest is the end of the world, the eschatology we're talking about here today, the end times, the so-called rapture. Right? And the reapers are the angels. The reapers are the messengers. Right? As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of the world. Those who are poisonous, those who are the children of the devil, shall be gathered together and burned when the end of the world happens. Right? Verse 41. I'm sorry, so that's verse 40. Right? So as the tares will be gathered the same way that if we were growing wheat and tares grew along, and somebody who's trained sends those who he's trained out himself, or somebody who's the Lord sends out those who he's trained to make sure he knows the difference. They know the difference between wheat and tare. When it's harvest time, you put the wheat in a bundle and save it to be ate. You take the tare and you put it just on a fire and you burn it up because it's poisonous. Matter of fact, you would even cover up your nose and everything because the fumes are poisonous. Just being around it is poisonous. Right? If you don't know any better, you have to be trained on how to do it. So a lot of us are out here untrained, especially trying to figure out how to do it. That's why you got to believe in what the Most High. He said, so when does the reaping happen? That's why I said we just went through it. That's why I was saying when you were talking about Matthew 13:40, we just went through. Right? Revelation chapter 20 and what we assumed the rapture to be. The same Christ talking about that in Matthew 24 we were talking about earlier, right? Reveals to us what will happen when it will happen, and we can see what's happened. Right? Have we not gotten past the four horsemen? Right? If you know what time it is, we've gotten, the four horsemen have been doing anything. Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. Have we not gotten past where we're like, hey, when is this going to happen? Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. We gotten past that. Right? Now it's starting to be to where we should be putting wormwood and getting ready for things and that acquire to be rolled back. That's going to come up, right? So now that we get to that question, now we can see where are we in Revelation chapter 7. Have we gotten to a place where Israel is 100% sealed so that everybody can be grafted in yet? Right? Have we gotten to where the teachings of Elijah and Moses have been reestablished again? Right? Revelation chapter 10. Have we gotten past that? You know, if you even know historically what's going on in hundreds of years where that's supposed to take place? Have you gotten to a place where you know about times and half a time, 1,260 years, meaning that you got to go back to, what is that, 538 AC and be able to get to 1798 AC and see the dragon that is mentioned where its head is messed up in Revelation chapter 12? Right? That's the Roman Catholic Church where something's happened, where it should be gone, but it's there. Have we passed that already? Where in 1798, Napoleon said, take the head, take the Pope. But somehow the Roman Catholic Church has come back with the help of Christian exceptionalism, right? On the wave of neocolonialism, right? Through the unrighteous prism of Zionism. Right? So we're close. We see the timing. And so, but when we get there, it tells us that there has to be a time where the Satan is allowed to go ahead and roam back. He's going to be locked up. Is he locked up yet? No, he's still roaming to and fro. Now, some would argue that. I would tell you that he's not locked up yet, because if he was locked up, then his influence isn't as heavy. Remember, it says when he's locked up in Revelation chapter 20, not only will he be locked up for his influence, like it says, he will be locked up in chains, and there will be stuff put upon him to where he won't be able to move. For those of you who are anime heads, think almost like when they be having those little, cards or whatever. I ain't got nothing that size here. But, they be having little cards and stuff, and they put it on somebody, and the person can't move. Right? Think about it like that. Or some curse comes upon them, and you see weird stuff start happening to their body or whatever. Think like that if you know what I'm talking about. All right, how you doing, Empress? All right, so anyways, we got to be faithful. Sister Toya's question has been waiting since yesterday or even maybe the day before. So let's go ahead and answer the question. So, Sister Toya, the question was, Uh, Basically, so you were saying, during holidays, you work in retail, and I used to do this too, by the way, so I get it. I used to do that for Rent-A-Center. If you know about Rent-A-Center, stay away from Rent-A-Center. We used to try to teach people how to use it properly. If you want to learn how to make sure you can do something so you pay it off at the actual cost in 90 days versus paying it for 2, 3 years, and you pay it all 75 times, and then they still try to take it from you. Right? I'm telling you from experience. And yes, if Rent-A-Center, you see this and you want to get mad at me, get mad at me. It is what it is. That being said, it's our pleasure. That being said, yeah. So I used to have to dress up a whole bunch of stuff. I work in restaurants. Used to have to use. I don't know. If they still call it that. We used to call it pop, right? But basically, advertisement stuff that you would put up, and you got to put it in the window, and you try to make sure you get people to buy certain things through certain aisles, and come to the back for this, and when I rate to the cash register, that's why the soda is there. The soda's not there just because they know you bought the soda is there because it's the last thing. So you might have seen soda when you first came in. You might have seen soda when you went through the aisle. You might have seen soda when they had it on the outside parts of the aisle. But when you got to the aisle to pay, finally you're like, dang, I need some soda. But that's advertising. The more you see something, even if you know you don't need it, the more you see it, you'll start thinking to yourself, I need it, right? So they put the candy bars there, they put the magazines there, they put all that stuff there, right? They condition you. That's right. Remember, advertising. Anybody ever heard of the rule of 13? If you haven't, they put commercials out the way that they do. They want you to see them 13 times. They believe that basically by the 13th time you've seen the commercial, you'll get it, right? When you were right, especially when you weren't on social media now some of you pay to get rid of the commercials, but there used to be a time when you watch television, some of you still watch television all the time, and you watch television and you like, and you see something, you be like, oh, that's a ridiculous commercial. You see it again, man, that's corny. You see it again, why they keep showing it? You see it again, man, it's stupid, but I mean, for real, like, I just eat it. Right? And it keeps materializing until by the time you get to number 13, you say, you know what, we need to go to Applebee's. You ain't never wanted to eat at Applebee's a day in your life. That's the rule of 13, right? You know what? We need to go ahead and go to Arby's. Arby's, we got the meats. You ain't never been, you've never seen somebody in line at Arby's. You've never seen a line at Arby's. You know what I'm saying? I used to work at Chick-fil-A. Arby's was right across the street. People would park at Arby's. We would tell the 18 wheelers and stuff, park at Arby's in the parking lot and then come over because we can't have you go through the drive-thru. So we'd be like, park at Arby's and then walk over because wasn't nobody coming to Arby's. The most high Yachashva is Alacham, right? Aman, right? And that. But anyways, I gotta answer this question. So anyways, I know about the advertising. I know how the game works, right? We supposed to do that. So the question was basically like, hey, during times of the season, during my job, I might have to put up Christmas decorations, right? I'm in charge of certain things like that. I might be the one they come to be like, hey, it's Easter time. I got to put up Easter eggs, or I have to put up a heart. Not just a heart with my hands, but I have to put hearts, this and that, because hearts are okay. But then when it comes Valentine's Day, so how should we handle that? Should we wear certain things? Should we be allowed to? All these different things. So I want to take you to Scripture, of course. Now we don't have time to read it, but Sister Toya and others of you as well, I'm pretty sure, are enough of Bible scholars to where you would know exactly where I'm talking about. I believe it's 2 Kings chapter 4 or 2 Kings chapter 5, one of them, where it talks about Naaman, and he has come to get healed of leprosy, right? If you recall, and it was a young daughter of Israel, it was a young Israelite woman, a young Israelite girl, who knew that the Lord of her house, Naaman, had leprosy. And she said, hey, go get healed. There's a prophet in Israel, right? He goes to see Elijah. First, he went to see the king, thinking that's who he should go see, and came with all of his stuff and all the stuff. The king loved him, so the king gave him all this extra stuff. So he comes to the Israelite king, and he comes ready. He's got all the stuff. He's got all these people preceding him, proceeding him, coming behind him on his side, flanks, etc., etc. And he comes in, and he's like, "I'm here to be healed," and the king starts ripping his hair out. Thinking you must be coming to kill me because I'm not the one. Thank you. 2 Kings chapter 5. He's like, I'm not the one who heals. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, you need to see the prophet. So he goes to see Elijah. Elijah doesn't even leave the house. He has his understudy go out and talk to one of his understudies. Elijah had a school for the prophets, believe it or not. And he had an understudy go out. He has an understudy go out to Naaman, and he says, yeah, my master Elijah, my teacher, he's not really going to come out here, but he sent me out here to let you know if you want to get cleansed, baptize yourself, submerge yourself 7 times in the waters here. And the king is like, I came all the way over here, did all this, brought the best clothing, this and that or whatever, and he couldn't even come out and see me, thinking he's all that, right? He ends up finally, because his boy tells him, hey, look, you got leprosy, bro. I love you. If we were back home and somebody who you had respect for told you to do something way crazier, you would have done it. But because this man told you to dunk yourself in the water, he was like, look, we came all this way. Might as well dunk yourself in the water, bro. He dunks himself in the water. He goes down and up. Nothing happens. Down, up, nothing happens. Down, up, nothing happens. Down, up, nothing happens. Down, up, nothing happens. Down, up. And you must be getting frustrated. But he says, all right, I got one more. Down, up. And what happens? It says his not only was his leprosy healed, it says that his leprosy was gone and his skin had become as if it was like a newborn baby skin. Right? Right? So now he goes back to Elijah. Elijah finally can come out and see him. He apologizes for his behavior. He's like, and he even bows down and he says, hey, there is nobody else to be worshipped but Yahweh Elohim. There's nobody like him. But then, to answer your question, Sister Tori, you know that part, right? So you know what comes next. Then the next thing he asks is, hey, I have to go back and work for this dude. He has a lot of love and respect for me, this and that or whatever. He done a lot for me, but he worships a God. He worships a spirit. He worships a being that I know now is wild, is wicked, is wretched. Right? That's that, right? Right? Anybody? 2 Kings chapter 5, that's where we are, right? He says, I got to go back to this dude and work for him. Right? This is how I take care of my family. Matter of fact, if I were to just try and leave this guy being over his armies, I would get arrested if I just rolled out like that. He's in the worst position, you might say. He says, this dude is going to bow down to an idol. And every time he's bowed down, when he bows down, he puts his weight upon me as he bows down. And since he's my master, if he bows, I can't be above him. That's the way it goes. If you don't get the context, if you don't get the culture. If my master bows down, I got to bow down too. He says, am I permitted to do so? He said, am I permitted? That's what he asked. Am I permitted to do so? They're like, look, I know. Now, somebody might even get into it, and I don't want to do all this, you got to come before the priest thing or whatever, because there is some truth to it, but at the same time, I don't want nobody thinking I'm saying you got to bow down and come to me to ask permission, right? Hear what I'm saying, though. This is what he's dealing with. He goes to the prophet, and he asks permission specifically. He says, hey, when it's time, he says, I'm not going to do this all the time, but there are times where he's going to bow down and bow down to this idol. In my heart, I'm not bowing down to the idol. I promise you. It's not my thing. I know better. I know more than if anybody knows that Elohim heals, it's me. If anybody knows that you're his prophet, it's me. If anybody knows that you don't even have to be there, you can just tell me what to do, and what you tell me, as long as it's righteous, it will happen. I know. Naaman says, if anybody knows, I know. I've been dealing with leprosy, and I can't sleep with my own wife, who loves me, and I love her. For the first time in my life, I don't know if it's the first time in his life, but that was for the first time in a long time, he'll be able to actually have a relationship. He says, if anybody is ready to hype this thing, it's me. But he says, I'm going back to work. Do I have permission? Right? Yeah, just like, come on, sissy. Now, right? Here we go. Just like Joseph serving Pharaoh. Still obtaining favor, being second in command. And he can make decisions as if he's Pharaoh. But if Pharaoh shows up, what does Joseph have to do? Right? See, so yeah, we need to be a little more forgiving than sometimes we are, especially when we're in the land of our captivity. If you notice, this is land of our captivity speech. Jeremiah 29:11. We love that scripture so much. Don't forget that's in the land of our captivity. And so it says we should build homes and we should do this and we should do that. Even in the land of our captivity, we should do these things. But recognize if you're a captive, if you're a prisoner of war, right? Is there anything wrong? See, look, let's just keep it a buck. If I'm a prisoner of war, if I've lost, if my people are lost, I can pray and fast and seek. I can say I'm not going to eat the meat. I'm only going to do the vegetarian meat. I can do all those things. Even Daniel can do all those things. But every once in a while, somebody might still say, put Daniel in the lion's den. But Daniel didn't pray against it. Daniel didn't. He had to do what he was had to do, but he knew Yah would protect him. So let this be a lesson to us that sometimes we're so busy like saying blah 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 blah. Realize what somebody's, including your own situation, is, and be forgiving to yourself and be forgiving to others. Right? There are times when you are, yes, there are times to where you're going to be working at the store and you're going to have to listen to everybody saying Santa Claus is coming to town. Right? They can't force you. At least I hope they can't. I don't know what's written in your contracts. You might want to read those before you sign them. But they cannot force you to be like, you have to wear elf ears, right? But you might have to set up something on the floor, right? You might have to, maybe you find a way. I mean, I'm not trying, don't get in no trouble. Maybe you can find a way to put one headphone in so you can listen to something else. Maybe you can listen to some word while you're getting all this stuff and you can feel like something happening or whatever, right? Right? I'm not saying you got to listen to our channel. That'd be nice. But I'm just saying you can listen to, just get some word in you, or listen to some spiritual hymns, some spiritual songs, hymns, psalms, as Ephesians 5:19 teaches, right? But recognize, yeah, there will be some times to where you will have to deal with those things. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're not an Israelite. It doesn't mean you're not kingdom. It doesn't mean you're not saved. It doesn't mean you're not working out your own salvation, right? It means that you know something that somebody else does not. And this person who's over you, right? Unfortunately, that's a lot of situation we are until we start doing what we're supposed to do as a nation and support each other and come out of it. There's going to be some times where you're going to have to go through. Look, there's times where, look, I praise Yah, I don't have to go to the store as much as I used to have to. That being said, sometimes I still have to go to the store, right, to be able to get something that I don't have access to. And if I go there, if it's Christmas time, guess what I'm going to hear? Does that make me wicked because I went into the store? Or does it mean that I'm not going to let my family not eat or get whatever things they need to survive because because they're playing Christmas music? All right. So right, I'm telling you as the guy who had to be taught by his wife. This is how wild-witted I was at one point. I'm telling you as the guy that used to not allow like snowflakes in the house during Christmas time. Like the whole snowman stuff, and I get it, the snowman, especially the way a lot of persons do it, it is pagan and stuff. But I used to be the person, you can't even have a snowflake in the house. Right? I don't want nothing that reminds you of Christmas. And my wife had to be like, snow's not evil, right, Kofi? And oh yeah, I'm tripping, right? So I'm telling you, I've come a long way. I used to be wild with it, like we're not gonna have. Well, you're getting socks. Socks. Well, this season they doing stop. I used to be that dude for like a couple years. I'm just being honest. Hey, I was off, right? And my had to come to me and be like, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to get a snowflake for wintertime. And I'm going to let Solomon, right? She got a wooden one carved out. She was like, and I'm going to let Solomon paint them and I'm going to let him hang them in his room because that's not idols. It's actually for his class. He needs to learn this stuff. Get over yourself for a second. Right? I wasn't, and I'm exaggerating a tiny bit, but I'm not exaggerating that much. So, anyways, though, hopefully I answered it enough, Sister Toy. I don't know if I answered it all the way I would like to, but I wanted to make sure at least we got it here, and I'm glad we waited for you to come on. If you still want to go deeper into it, maybe send me something, text me, messenger or something like that, and let me know. But hopefully that helps to be able to see those reference points. I feel like I could have sewn it up a little bit better, but that being said, And in about 5 minutes, we're supposed to start the podcast. It just literally turned 9:55, so less than 5 minutes. So in 5 minutes, we got to start the podcast. So thank you everybody for being on. Sisters, please don't forget, we're gonna do a shout out real quick. Those of you who know how the shout out works, you just go ahead and do what you're supposed to. Those of you who don't know how the shout out works, just follow the example of those in the shout out. We appreciate you so very much. We're gonna have Women in Red this evening. So those of you who are able to attend, please feel free to come on in. Brothers, if you're able to support, please support as the sisters did us. We would love to make sure that we have their back as well. We are going to, it's going to be at 7 p.m. New York time. You'll get an email about 4 p.m. New York time with all the information as far as if you want to print stuff out and with the Zoom link in it. I will not put the Zoom link out publicly. All right. But it's basically on all social media, I believe, except for Twitter and X. And we'll probably put it on both of those in just a little bit. Okay. So for the rest of the day, we're about to go into the podcast. 10 a.m. New York time at the top of the hour in a few minutes. 11 a.m. New York time, Shabbat school for the babies. 12:15 p.m. New York time, watch party, Birth of a Nation, the 1915 version, continuing that part 4. 2 p.m. New York time, we'll have the international meeting. 7 p.m. New York time, women's meeting. Check out in your email, sisters. 4 p.m. New York time, and everybody. 4 p.m. New York time for the link. And if you'd like to print out a copy of the program for yourself so you can have a keepsake. Also, in all these places, including the stuff you'll be able to print out, it has the ingredients. So if you want to go to the store, if you haven't been able to do so already, make sure that you have the ingredients so you can make the tea along with us. Sisters, please be ready to show yourself in your beautiful red outfits as you do yearly. And that being said, we give our honor and praises to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. To the ministerial staff, moderators, SOC, Lottie Dar, and everybody, and especially today to our sisters. May Yah be with you. Shabbat Shalom to all. Shabbat Shalom and Shabbat Shalom. And to everybody, remember, as always, that you are loved. You are necessary. You are majestic. You're fearfully, wonderfully made. And you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom. If you'd like to go ahead once again and come on over and join us, we're going to get ready to do our shout out on TikTok only. We'll talk to you guys soon. Peace. Take care.